Welcome to another episode of Two Babies in a Business where I get to, just hang out with my friends. Really, maybe it's my excuse to do that, but I get to talk to some really incredible women in several different industries all across Canada. And I am thrilled today to be joined by, I'm going to say, client turned friend, Lisa White from Kamloops. I feel like she has taught me a lot about the mom life in terms of things like geocaching and adventuring and not being afraid to throw myself down mountains sometimes. And I love working with her on all things communication. So, Lisa, thanks for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. And I think it's funny, Christina and I always talk about how if we lived in the same city, we would be like BFFs and our boys would be BFFs. We're both boy moms. So that's a whole nother world of conversation that I think is kind of something you understand if you're a boy mom.
Sure, we have fully embraced the boy mom lifestyle.
Totally. So it's fun. And yes, I'm so grateful for the relationship we've built over the last, I think, 7 years and our journey through mom life and work life and supporting each other. And I'm grateful for you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. You're reminding me of actually when I found out you were pregnant with your second. We would often, CIPR would travel to Kamloops, and there seemed to be like a theme that for some reason we always had booze to celebrate something. And at this particular meeting, we were celebrating, I don't even know what, one of the many things that
we celebrate a lot. We celebrate a lot.
Me too. And we were pouring, I think it was Peter was pouring some champagne. We all finished. And then I looked over at you because he was going around with seconds, and you kind of gave me this look of like, I'm fine. And then I'm like, oh God, okay. Like lips are sealed. Okay, she's fine. And I'm like, Peter, she's fine. I'll have some more. Peter. Like,
you knew instantly. That is so funny. And I'm the worst liar. So I was like, I'm pregnant. I cannot drink the champagne, even though I really want to, but I cannot. And cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows that's how work finds out that baby number 2 is on the way.
Oh, you gotta watch out with those boozy parties.
Right? It's our new system at work. It's like, okay, who's not having alcohol? Who's pregnant in the office now?
It's true. It's scary. Okay, Lise, I know all about you, but why don't you tell everyone? I feel like there's always this unique opportunity where we don't often introduce ourselves. So here's your chance to introduce yourself.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think, who am I? I am someone who has an incredibly deep passion for the tourism industry that began in my very young years in high school. And it's funny, people ask me, how do you like your job? How do you like the industry? And I was like, it's like in my soul. I took tourism classes in high school before tourism classes were a thing. I worked in the heli ski industry in my high school days. It was just in the hospitality industry. It was just something that I've always been drawn to sharing a passion and enthusiasm for adventure, inspiring people to get outside their comfort zones and try something new and explore new areas and really embrace our surroundings. And I think I'm someone who just craves being outside and exploring. And I try and inspire those around me to embrace the same things. And now I'm, merging these worlds of tourism, passionate cheerleader and mom life. And I have 2 boys, and I think my family looks at me and rolls their eyes sometimes because I'm like, where are we going this weekend? And constantly take them out hiking or for picnics or geocaching or beach days or golfing, and just really embracing all that our amazing province and country has to offer.
Yeah, you are like a great advocate. I feel like if there's anyone in the tourism space that embodies what they preach, it's you, right? Like I think that again, it's easy to have a job and think of it as that, but I almost feel like as we become, this sounds weird, as we become women or as we, get a little bit more seasoned in our career, it's so important to be passionate about it because it's taking your creativity, it's taking your attention away from, this new important job of being mom. So you better damn well really enjoy it, and it really better make you excited because, that's your life.
Totally. And it's funny, my husband and I banter back and forth all the time because he's a banker. So that's real fun and has all kinds of adventuring times. Not, but I do. And I'm like, honey, you chose your path. I chose mine. So he's the saver and I'm the marketing, the spender, the let's find ways to share our passions. And it's a beautiful synergy between the two of us, but it's just one of those things where you choose your path in life. And mine was always a path of embracing and enjoying. And when work doesn't feel like work, that's pretty awesome. My family's always like, Lisa doesn't work. She doesn't work. She's out golfing and wine tasting and doing all the fun things. And it's one of those places where maybe tourism is not going to put a lawyer salary on the table or a doctor salary on the table, but it's a world where you're going to enjoy life and it's going to be fun. So I'm grateful for the ride that I've been on and the journey I get to be a part of in my work world for sure.
Nice. Well, you have been on a journey in the past couple of years in terms of your professional life. You've gotten a great kind of promotion and recognition for the work that you've done. And now you are a part of the leadership team at Tourism Kamloops. I know that being a leader brings a whole new layer onto professional life and balancing mom life. But why don't you talk about your new professional life? What's that looking like these days?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've only been in this leadership role for a year and a half. And it's been an awesome learning curve for me. And it's when you have people underneath you, or as part of your team, I should say, that's a big responsibility. And it's one that I take very seriously because I'm a part of their journey. I'm a part of their story. And if I can help be a part of their growth and their development and their passions, that's a big responsibility that I'm excited to be a part of. And when I first sort of stepped into the role, I said to myself, I want to be someone who has a very open door policy where my team feels like they can come to me with anything and they're not afraid of me, they're not nervous, but we can have open, real conversations about what's important to them and how we can continue to grow and evolve together. And it's funny, I've been super transparent. I'm like, I'm not necessarily an expert in this, but I'm excited to learn along with you. And I'm hoping that we can support each other for an amazing success and outcome together. And I've just been super transparent in that and vulnerable, which good or bad, it's just the way that I've chosen to lead. And I think my team has valued that. I mean, we've had a lot of really open and real conversations. And that's what I've always wanted to be the case, is that we can be there for each other and grow and brainstorm and come up with creative solutions and unique ideas together. I want them to feel like they can think outside the box and we can have a conversation about trying to move that forward, and that no idea is a bad idea and we're excited for what it's going to look like. I think on the flip side, though, being so vulnerable can present some challenges as well. As do they value me as a leader, and do they respect me as a leader? I hope so. But those are some of the questions that just go through my mind when I'm so sort of transparent and honest in that way. Is, are they feeling like, being a part of my team is a valuable experience for them?
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those, tough questions in terms of, and this sounds very cliche, but in the era of the Barbie movie, I'm going to go there. But like, I don't know if a man would ever say, oh, I was so vulnerable. I hope that they still respect my leadership. Right. Like, I think that we, we're in touch with our feelings. We're in touch with, that piece. I mean, what I love about you is the way you are a leader is just who you are. Like, that is truly your authentic self. Like, that is you caring, that is you being you. But I get it from the, oh, is this really who they wanted their boss to be? Like, it's a bit of imposter syndrome, but also like this almost stereotype around, I don't know, the boss has to be bossy, or lean into the word bitchy, right? I think that there's something there that probably needs to be unpacked a little bit.
It's true, right? And it's sort of those stereotypes and overcoming some of those. And it's also trying to find that balance of my work family and my personal family. And I'll reflect on that. This summer was a tough one because we had a lot of challenges with our summer team. And that's a big crew that was sort of leaning on us for direction and support and guidance. And did we do everything perfectly? No. Did we miss the mark in a few areas? Yes. Was it hard to balance, supporting my work team, but also trying to be present with my family? Totally. And, trying to find that world where I can shut off work and my constant sort of worry of their needs and their concerns and supporting them to be present with my kids was an interesting balance this year, and two very different stresses, but trying to, find a world where they could both have a piece of my heart in many ways, which is interesting.
How did you do it? How did you tackle that?
I don't know that I did it super successfully, but I had to put trust in my team too, to know that they're adults and they're going to make decisions, and I'm going to support their decisions and whatever they choose and what path or direction they choose in those moments, in those troubling moments. That if I can trust them and know that I have to be present with my family in this moment. So what's going to happen there is what's going to happen. And we're going to work through it afterwards and talk through what we did great and what we maybe could have done differently. Then that was sort of the outcome. So yeah, it was interesting, but I was constantly on my phone being like, is my team okay? Are there any situations that are going to arise? So it was just an interesting one where I was probably looking at my phone in my off and my family time more than I typically like to be, because I was concerned of their well-being and what was going on with some of the challenges that we were having.
Yeah. I think leadership, to your point, brings like this whole new layer of like the work-life balance of a mom, right? I remember when I was in my government days, I worked for the Ministry of Tourism, and the minister, she was amazing. She was a great boss. She was a boy mom too, still is a boy mom. Her boys are all grown up now though. And I used to say to her, would you want to go be the minister of energy or the minister of health, or one of those big juicy files that is more prestigious and more whatever? And she looked at me and she said, well, one, Christina, like the pay is no different.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, two, the schedule is no different, but at least in this world, I have the ability to be more accessible to my family and bring them along for the ride. So, I remember one summer working for her, she had put all four of her boys in like an RV. And she had to go see all the parks and do her thing as minister, but she made it the family road trip. And, she was really good at, remember her, like Sundays was her family time. Mm-hmm. And she did not answer any calls, any emails, any whatever, and made that space. But the boys really became part, like we knew the boys as the people who worked for her. They were hanging around. And it was just who we were. I feel like it's like those experiences for me are the ones that are almost like, it's okay. You can be a mom and you can be this. Because I don't think we have many examples of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, you get pulled in so many different directions. And I'm also incredibly grateful for my husband. And you and I have talked about this before too, to have a partner who, is very present and very involved and able to step up. Like I was in Ottawa all last week, and my husband and my two boys and my dog had a great time and enjoyed their boy time together. And I think that's valuable for them to, really have that time without me. And I think it makes them appreciate us more when we come back.
100%. I 100% agree. It's true. How have you communicated kind of the change to the boys about being a leader in an organization now, or have you? Like, do they see a difference? Do you message that to him? Do you not?
I mean, that's interesting. And it's funny because, when we talk about my job and even my husband's job and our kids understanding what our jobs are, because they're not like I drive a tractor or
right.
Like it's a very sort of computer focused job. So I think for them to wrap their heads around that in the first place is interesting. And if you ask them what I do for a living, they're like, well, mom tells people to come have fun and do cool things in Kamloops. Okay. So that's what they think my job is, which is great. I think it's a fun description of what it is. But I think there's been definite moments where I've introduced them to our team and had moments where they've connected and got to know different people and come into my office and things like that. So while we haven't got into the key details of it, I mean, my youngest is only 5 right now, so he's a bit young to maybe understand the full scope of it. But I think those are conversations to come, and it'll be interesting. I mean, I know my husband just took on a leadership role as well, so it's funny because we're in the same boat at the same time,
Yeah.
in evolving and growing as leaders, and sort of explaining what that means for our kids and the importance of it.
Yeah, I feel like they're at an interesting age from the perspective of just understanding. I mean, obviously, any leader in an organization has to have tough conversations with people. And I have had tough conversations in the past year. And one of the boys the other day was like, "What's it like to have to fire somebody?" This is
Oh,
like completely disarming, but obviously picked up on, conversations that were floating around the house or floating around. And it's like,
mhm.
oh, and then now you're in this place where it's like, you got to really seriously answer this question because it's not a fun thing. It's not like a Donald Trump, you're fired. And,
Yeah.
there's great, like, it's like, some serious stuff has led to this and probably some tears and probably some hard conversations, and helping them try to realize that at such a young age and not like glamorize this, big, tough leader
Yeah.
life is a really interesting thing for little kids for sure.
Well, and isn't it interesting too, if we can inspire our boys to maybe take on a bit more of a vulnerable leadership role in their future, and to see that from the examples of their parents, right? And a compassionate approach. And yeah, I think it just could be interesting. And I think that's always my goal as a mom, is to ensure that I'm raising kind, compassionate, respectful children. Like, that is number one goal, that in life they have those qualities, and they have big hearts and appreciation and kindness. So I mean, if they can see that as a leader within us as well, and how we support our teams, then I think that's maybe a cool
I love that.
relay that can happen.
I love that. I feel like it was probably an Instagram reel of like a mom asking he younger than our boys, about like who is the mayor, like who could be a
Yeah.
mayor. And he only thought that women could be mayors because in Paw Patrol, the woman,
Oh, Mayor Goodway.
right? So he
Oh,
didn't even have this like realization that like a mayor could be a man.
I love that.
That was a girl job. So I feel like it's true. Like, I think there is this layer of compassion in doing business. Like this, I think there's this spectrum when you're a leader between, being the boss and being a friend, right? You want that
Mhm.
open door, you want that peace, but you also have to sometimes lean into you got this, you don't need me, you're fine. Do
Yeah.
you like, how do you play that spectrum? How do you?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting one, is that, there's compassion and there's kindness and there's, leading with your heart and vulnerability, for sure. And that's probably my primary. But I think one of my challenges is trying to remember that at the end of the day, the organization or the business has needs.
Yeah.
And the business needs have to be number one. And as much as your passion and your appreciation for your people and wanting to give them all the time to lead with kindness, at the end of the day, there's goals, there's KPIs, there's business needs that have to be on the table. And sometimes it's not about, softness, but just getting the job done, and, just pulling up your socks and doing the work that is going to accomplish what the business needs to have happen. And I think that's a big area where I'm trying to, grow as a leader, is, trying to find that focus, just remembering the focus and remembering the goals, and making sure that stays relevant no matter what. And I think there's definitely a world where both can be in the table, and I think it's important that both are on the table, but trying to find that balance between the two is super important.
Yeah. And hard. Like I don't think it's for the faint of heart. Like I think especially when I first started CIPR, I really struggled with like being too nice to people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you'd get like really shocking requests of like astronomical pay raises, and you're like, why did you think that this was on the table? And they're like, well, you've always told me how great I am. And it's like, oh, well, here's a list of improvements to make, right? Like there is this balance of when you're a leader, to your point, you're held accountable to a new level of whatever it may be. The KPIs are yours at the end of the day to own. And so finding that way to be constructive in your feedback. I feel like it's like being the mom, but not being a mom, because you can't bring that energy to the workplace. Nobody is getting screen time taken away. But there's this interesting dichotomy of you need to figure out how to incentivize people. And I feel like, I mean, we were talking before we hit record in terms of the conference you just went to, like now we're navigating different generations, right? Gen Z wants something different. There's going to be another generation coming up to the workplace soon. And yeah, what have you noticed in terms of
Yeah, it's true. And I think, you know, the younger generation, they're coming where they know what they want. They're focused. They're craving feedback, which I value. They want to learn how to grow and do things differently. At the same time, their work-life balance is important. And I think that's been a huge thing over the last 5-7 years is, you know, making sure that they make that a priority. They're taking their vacation time. Yeah. When they are off work, they are off work, and they know to put their phone down and this is my personal time. And I think there's something to be learned from their approach. And I think maybe we as a generation have, you know, been working a little bit, I don't want to say too much, but not made it as much of a priority to shut off, probably to our detriment in some ways, where things like burnout happen and exhaustion and you know, we're not making ourselves a priority. So I think there is a lot to be learned with what they're doing and what their approach is. And I value that my team is craving feedback and craving the opportunity to continue to grow and evolve and putting their goals on the table right at the beginning, being like, this is where I want to go. And this is where what I'm achieving, what I'm striving to achieve. And I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just trying to find ways to, you know, dance alongside each other to what their future is going to be. Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that feedback thing is a really powerful reminder for women, because I think sometimes, again, to my point of view, maybe too nice, or maybe those tough conversations in a recent kind of round of when we do like exit interviews on our end, one of the team members that was talking to me said that they wished that their direct leader had given more feedback.
Yeah.
Like that was a huge, and to me, I don't know if anyone, I feel like, I don't know, our age group would be like, I don't want that. It's like, there's some anxiety around like, I want even more feedback, but like this up and coming generation, to your point, like they crave it and they use it. And I don't know, for whatever reason, they deal with it well.
Yeah, which is great. It's just us trying to find a way to give that feedback and make sure that we're constantly delivering ways for growth and development and helping them in their journey. It's also, I think, making sure that the expectations in alignment with the feedback and growth are clear.
Yeah.
Because is there a level where if I have all good feedback and I'm rock starring it, then why don't I make double the amount of money that I'm making right now? Right. So I think it's really making sure that your levels, your growth, your paths forward are clear for your team and what that looks like, so that, you know, those can be open and honest conversations as well.
Totally. Okay, switching gears a bit, but not really. I feel like, you know, pop culture, media, they're trying to like be in touch with the working woman. Are they getting it right? What do you see out there? Are you feeling more pressure? Are you feeling good? What do we need to rage against the man for now?
Interesting question. And it's funny looking at like Eras Tour and Barbie movie and this growth of, you know, women in pop culture has been so interesting to me. I mean, tourism is very much, I don't have stats on this, but there's a lot of women that work in tourism and continue to push the ceilings in tourism, which is very, very cool. I mean, our CEO of Destination Canada is female, Marsha Walden. She's amazing. So I think we continue to see in our industry specifically an incredible suite of women doing amazing things in the tourism industry. And I'm grateful to be a part of that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think decision-making and policy, I think there's lots of room there to continue to advocate for not necessarily women's roles, but for the industry as a whole, and continue to step up in those ways. So yeah, but I mean, I think there's some really powerful women that I'm excited to follow along and to learn from. And I got to meet many of them in Ottawa over this last week. So
yeah, I think it's like an important lesson too, in terms of you never know who is watching you.
yeah.
And you are probably the great woman that is moving mountains and pushing past ceilings for someone else. I think that, there's a leader that I've talked about before on this podcast where she reached out to me and she was like, I'm quite surprised at how like inspirational you found me. I was just doing my job. But those are the moments, like in the everyday life, in doing what we're doing and doing what we're passionate about, we are making a difference. And I think sometimes, when the mom life schedule fills up and the leadership schedule fills up and the get my reports done schedule fills up, it just feels like we're going through the motions. But like, I think we're paving a pretty cool path for the next gen.
And I think no matter what gender you are, if you are a leader who has passion and drive,
yeah,
you will accomplish amazing things. And sometimes I wonder if it should be based on gender or not, or if it should just be based on doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And leading with passion. So
it's true. And I feel like, you hit the nail on the head too. It's, we have partners that bear the workload too. So it's easily right now too, the working dad or the working whoever, and balancing that life, because, the school system is not 8 to 5 like work is. So somebody somewhere is always balancing something.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I heard a stat recently too that talked about how 10% of a compensation package, many people believe, lies in flexible work environment. And I would argue that it's maybe even higher.
Yeah.
For many. And I think, when you look at whatever compensation package you're throwing at someone, if they have the ability to not miss a soccer game or to go on the odd field trip with their child's class, those are huge. If they don't have to miss out on those key moments in their family's lives, I think that rings true for a lot of people. And it certainly, that stat meant something to me, and it's something that's super important to me. I'm not someone who would sign up for a rigid clock in clock out must be their schedule, because that just doesn't align with my values as a family, as a person. I want to be present in my family's lives. And I think those things, if more employers can kind of recognize or find ways to offer that balance and that flexibility, I think you'll attract those type of people.
Totally. I mean, I think that's the power in the next generation of leaders too, because we're living that life. I mean, work-life balance looked a lot different 20 years ago than it does now. And, the fact that now we're finally kind of becoming the leaders of organizations too, and get to say flexibility matters, I think is something we can't forget about. I think that, again, as like a small business owner on my side, I sometimes feel like, well, I can't offer the world, but I can offer really great flexibility, right? And that matters.
And you have trust in your team to know that at the end of the day, the job's going to get done. The work is going to be amazing. It just might not be 8:30 to 4:30. They might, like I know in my life, sometimes at 3:30, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to put an hour in with the kids now. I'll probably open my laptop at 8 or 9 o'clock. And I've said to my team before too, I was like, this is what's important to me. So you might see me on my laptop at 8 or 9 o'clock. That does not mean that you need to respond at that hour, because I respect that you've turned off for that time frame, and that's okay. But you might get an email from me, and I'm not asking you to follow in that. It's just, understanding sort of what each of our lives, how they intertwine and what's important to us.
So good. I feel like that's leading with kindness too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's, again, I've definitely had some bosses where they'd email at night and you're, oh God, I have to get back to them right away.
Do I need to be on? Are they expecting me to be working at 9, 10 o'clock at night too? And it's like, no.
That's
This
true.
is just how we're each balancing our worlds. But I had that conversation, right? And I was like, you need to know that this is not my expectation. This is what you're going to see with me because it's what's important to my family and me. So
I love that. No, so important. Well, Lise, I have loved watching you grow into a leader. I've loved just getting to be your friend and be a boy mom with you. So thank you for sharing your story. And I know that you're going to continue to move mountains over there in Kamloops.
thank you, my friend. The journey has been remarkable, and I'm grateful to have you alongside it as well. I hope it doesn't end. We get to continue doing all kinds of fun things together.
You are stuck with me forever.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks for joining me, Christina Pilarski, for another fantastic episode of Two Babies in a Business. I hope that you'll follow along with me on my journey as a mom on Instagram, Two Babies in a Business. And I hope that you'll sign up for our newsletter. You can find the link in the show notes or on my Instagram. And finally, if you're a mom with a story to share, I want to hear from you. Please reach out to me, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you.